You're unmuted, obviously.
Okay, I'm going online now.
I'll keep an eye on the live stream as well.
Oh, good. Okay, are we online? Ah, yes, we are. Oh, Shabbat. I look stupid now.
That's the first.
That's the first. 200 people have just heard what you said, Philip. Thank you. Okay, so Shabbat Shalom to you all. Shabbat Shalom to you who are on the call tonight, and Shabbat Shalom also to you who are watching us on Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube for this Erev Shabbat Shlach Lecha. So tonight we are going to start on page 88, and to light the Shabbat candles. And Rebecca and Craig, I made you co-host so you can allow people in. Yeah, page 88. Over to you, Tina.
Okay. The people who walked in darkness have seen a great light. In the past week, some have known sorrow or disappointment, and for some, the future looks far from bright. Let this Sabbath be an oasis of quietness. To the lonely, may it bring companionship. To the sorrowing, comfort. To the dispirited, courage. To all of us, peace of mind and hope for the future. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher kitishanu b'mitzvotov b'tzivanu lahadlik ner shel Shabbat. Amen. We praise you, eternal God, sovereign of the universe. You sanctify us by your commandments and enjoin us to kindle the Sabbath lights.
Amen.
Amen.
There are days when we seek material things and measure failure by what we do not own. On the Sabbath, we wish not to acquire, but to share. There are days when we exploit nature with reckless greed. On the Sabbath, we stand in wonder before the mystery of creation. There are days when we think only of ourselves. On the Sabbath, we open our hearts to the needs and rights of others. Psalm 92. מזמור שיר ליום השבת, טוב להודות לאדוני, ולזמר לשמך עליון, ולזמר לשמך עליון, להגיד בבוקר חסדך, ואמונתך בלילות, עלי עשור ועלי נבל, עלי היגיון בחינות. מזמור שיר ליום השבת, טוב להודות לאדוני, ולזמר לשמך עליון, ולזמר לשמך עליון, כי שימרתני אדוני בפועלך, במעשה ידיך ארנן. מה גדלו מעשיך אדוני מאוד, עמקו מחשבותיך. מזמור שיר ליום השבת, טוב להודות לאדוני, ולזמר לשמך עליון, ולזמר לשמך עליון. צדיק אתה יפעל, כארז בלבנון יזכה, שתולים בבית אדוני, בחצרות אלוהינו יפריחו. עוד ינובון בשיבה, דשנים ורעננים יהיו, להגיד כי ישר אדוני צורי, ולא עוולת בו.
The Eternal One reigns in grandeur robed and girded with strength. The world stands firm, it shall not be moved. Your throne is established from of old, for you are everlasting. The ocean roars, eternal God, the thundering ocean roars, the thundering ocean rage. Yet greater than the roaring waves, mightier than the breaking seas, you stand supreme on high. Sure are the proofs of your power, O God, and holiness adorns your house forever.
So we're on page 91. Lecha dodi likrat kala, pene Shabbat mekabala, shamo v'zecho b'diburechat hishmianu, el hamyuchat Adonai echad, u'shmo echad, v'shemo tiferet, v'litila. Lecha dodi likrat kala, pene Shabbat mekabala, likrat Shabbat, lecha v'nelcha ki makor, habaracha merosh miketem nasucha, sof maaseh v'machshavat achila. Lecha dodi likrat kala, pene Shabbat mekabala, hitorari, wikiba orech, kumi ori, shitaperi kavod Adonai, alayich nikla. Lecha dodi likrat kala, pene Shabbat mekabala, roi v'shalom, ateret balagan b'simcha, u'v'tzolot tochemone am segula, roi chala. Lecha dodi likrat kala, pene Shabbat mekabala, lecha dodi likrat kala, pene Shabbat mekabala.
On page 92 for Baruchu. And before we enter the Shema and its blessings, I wanted to say Shabbat Shalom. Shabbat Shalom to Ilana and the whole Mishpoche. Shabbat Shalom to Norman, Jill, and Joyce. Shabbat Shalom to Anna Sanderson. Shabbat Shalom to Philip. Yeah, where's the sunshine's gone? You're right. That's a very good question. Tomorrow, I can promise you tomorrow. At least BBC said so. Shabbat Shalom to Dominique and Julie. Sibyl is here as well. Shabbat Shalom to you, Fleur. Shabbat Shalom, Michelle and Holly. And of course, all of you who I don't see on my feed. So, page 92. Baruch את אדוני המבורך. ברוך אדוני המבורך לעולם ועד. Natalia, do you want to read page 93, please? Are you here?
Yes, I'm here. Sorry, I was unmuting myself. You caught me by surprise. Page 93. We praise you. Is that the one?
Yes.
Okay. We praise you, eternal one, our God, sovereign of the universe, whose word brings on the evening, whose wisdom opens heaven's gates, whose understanding changes times and seasons, and whose will sets the stars in their courses in the sky. You make day and night, rolling light away from darkness and darkness from light. You make day pass and bring on the light and separate day from night. You rule the host of heaven. We praise you, O God, whose words makes evening fall.
אהבת עולם, בית ישראל, עמך אהבת, עמך אהבת, תורה ומצוות, חוקים ומשפטים, אותנו לימדת, אותנו לימדת. על כן אדוני אלוהינו בשוכבנו ובקומנו נשיח בחוקיך ונשמח בדברי תורתך ובמצוותיך לעולם ועד. כי הם חיינו ואורך ימינו ובהם נגע יומם ולילה, נגע יומם ולילה. ואהבתך אל תסור ממנו לעולמים. ברוך אתה אדוני, אוהב עמו ישראל, אוהב עמו ישראל. Page 94. Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad, Baruch Shem Kevod Malchuto, Leolam Vaed. ואהבת את אדוני אלוהיך בכל לבבך ובכל נפשך ובכל מאודיך, והיו הדברים האלה אשר אנוכי מצווך היום על לבביך, ושננתם לבניך, ודיברת בם בשבתך בביתך ובלכתך בדרך ובשוכבך ובקומך, וקשרתם לאות על ידיך, והיו לטוטפות בין עיניך, וכתבתם על מזוזות ביתך ובשעריך, למען תזכרו ועשיתם את כל מצוותיי, והייתם קדושים לאלוהיכם. אני אדוני אלוהיכם, אשר הוצאתי אתכם מארץ מצרים, להיות לכם לאלוהים. אני אדוני אלוהיכם. אמת. Wants to read the next prayer? Can I have a reader? Just unmute yourself and read it.
Yeah.
I'll read.
All this we hold to be true and sure. You alone, eternal one, are our God. and we are Israel, your people. You have freed us from oppressors and delivered us from tyrants. You led us out of Egypt forever to serve you in freedom. When we witnessed your power, we praised your name and gave thanks. Willingly, we accepted your rule. Then, full of joy, we sang together.
Mi chamocha ba'elim Adonai, mi kamocha nedar b'kodesh, nora tehilot osef elem, nora tehilot osef elem. Adonai imlo leolam va'ed, Adonai imlo leolam va'ed, ונאמר כיף אדוני את יעקב, וגאלו מיד חזק ממנו, ברוך אתה אדוני, גאל ישראל. On page 96, Karen, can I ask you to read the prayer on page 96?
Okay. Grant, eternal God, that we may lie down in peace, and let us rise up to life renewed. Spread over us the shelter of your peace. Guide us with your wise counsel, and for your name's sake be our help. Shield us from sickness and war, from famine and distress, and keep us from wrongdoing. Shelter us in the shadow of your wings, for you are our guardian and deliverer, our gracious and merciful God. Guard our going out and our coming in, that now and always we may have life and peace. We praise you, O God, may your sheltering peace descend on us and all who dwell on earth.
Right, we're on page 97. I'm going to ask Sandra. Sandra, do you want to lead the tefillah? Sandra too.
Yeah, I was unmuting.
Thank you.
Na 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 Adonai. Na 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 Safatai Tiftach. Na 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 Yofiyakit. Yofiyakit Tehilatecha.
Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu ve'Elohei Avotenu ve'Imotenu, Elohei Avraham, Elohei Yitzchak, ve'Elohei Yaakov, Elohei Sarah, Elohei Rivka, Elohei Rachel, ve'Elohei Leah, Ha'el Hagadol, Hagibor ve'Hanora, El Elyon, Gomer Chasadim Tovim ve'Konei Hakol, ve'Zocher Chasdei Avot ve'Imahot, ומביא גאולה לבני בניהם, למען שמו באהבה, מלך עוזר ומשע ומגן, ברוך אתה אדוני, מגן אברהם ועזרת שרה. אתה גיבור לעולם, אדוני, מחיי מתים אתה רב להושיע, משיב הרוח ומוריד הגשם, מזריח השמש ומוריד הטל.
מחכה חיים בחסד, מחיי מתים ברחמים רבים, סומך נופלים בבית חולים, ומתיר אסורים, ומקיים אמונתו לשני עפר, מי כמוך בעל גבורות, מלך בנית ומחיה ומצמיח ישועה.
Trusting in you, we see life beyond death. Baruch atah Adonai, Machaye Hametim. You are holy, awesome is your name. We have no God but you. Baruch atah Adonai, Ha'el HaKadosh. We thank you, O God, for this Sabbath day, which calls us to a closer communion with you. Though you are near to us at all times, you reveal your presence most clearly when we direct our thoughts towards you in worship and meditation. In you, O God, our humanity is exalted. You are our life. From you come its greatness, its power, its beauty. Establish in us, we humbly pray, a devotion to you that shall be firm in all the circumstances of life. May this service renew in our hearts the sense of your presence and bring us peace.
Page 99. ישמחו במלכותך, ישמחו במלכותך, שומרי שבת וקוראי עונג, המקדשי שביעי, המקדשי שביעי, כולם ישבעו וינתגו מטובך, והשביעי, והשביעי, רצית בו וקידשתו. חמדת ימים, חמדת ימים, אותו קראת, זכר למעשה וראשית. Our God and God of ancestors, may our rest on this day be pleasing in your sight. Sanctify us by your commandments and make us loyal to your teaching. Satisfy us with your goodness, gladden us with your salvation, and purify our hearts to serve you in truth. In your gracious love, eternal one, let the holiness of your Sabbath enter our hearts, and may all Israel who hallow your name be exalted, and may all Israel who hallow your name be exalted by its peace. Baruch atah Adonai mekadesh Shabbat. We praise you, O God, for the holiness of the Sabbath. Yeretzeh Adonai Eloheinu b'amcha Israel, u'tfilatam be'ahava tekabel. Eternal God, be gracious to people Israel, and in your love accept their prayers. May our worship now and always be acceptable in your sight. We praise you, O God, whom alone we worship in reverence. Modim anachnu lach. We give thanks that you, Eternal One, are our God, as you were the God of ancestors. You are the rock of our life, the power that shields us in every age. We thank and praise you for our lives which are in your hand, for our souls which are in your keeping, for the signs of your presence we encounter every day, and for your wondrous gifts at all times, morning, noon, and night. We praise you, O God, source of goodness, to whom our thanks are due. Shalom Rav al Israel Amcha Tasim Le'olam. Supreme source of peace, grant true and lasting peace to people Israel, for it is good in your sight that your people Israel and all peoples may be blessed at all times with your gift of peace. Baruch atah Adonai Oseh HaShalom. We praise your God, the source of peace. And with God's peace in our hearts, we take now a few moments for private prayer meditation. La 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 la. Ya la 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 la. Ya la 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 la. Ya la 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 la. Ya la 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 la. Ya la 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 ya la la. Ose shalom bimromav, uyase shalom aleinu, ve'al kol Israel, ve'al kol yoshvei tevel, ve'imru Amen. Ya la 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 la. Ya la 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 la. Ya la 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 la. Ya la 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 la. Ya la 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 la. Ya la 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 la. Ya la 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 la. Oh, say shalom bimromav. הוא יעשה שלום עלינו ועל כל ישראל ועל כל יושבי תבל ואמרו אמן. I had to go up a tone because it was a bit low for my voice. So this is why it wasn't exactly the same key. Okay, which one is for tonight? Okay, good. So thank you for service leaders who help us to enter Shabbat, and thank you for your presence. Also, those who are on Zoom and those who are on our social media. And I can see that the Kelly's family is all together on Friday for the first time in ages. I hope you have a very good time, the four of you, and of course the cat, Lola, I think. Yeah, Lola. Right. Sorry, I just had to to remove the stapler for my Torah tonight. So, Shabbat Shalom. So you may have already read in our newsletter that Liberal Judaism has joined the Religious Alliance for Dignity in Dying. We have joined the Quakers and the Unitarians in favor of change in the law that will allow a person to terminate their life if the suffering is unbearable and if there is no prospect of healing. The religious alliance is shared by Rabbi Jonathan Romaine, who has long campaigned to change the law. By doing that, Liberal Judaism is backing a private member bill presented by Baroness Meacher to the House of Lords. The first reading happened on Wednesday in that house. I found on the Dignity and Dying website, which is the larger campaign, the following words. So this is how the bill is described. The bill would legalize assisted dying as a choice for terminally ill, mentally competent adults in the final month of life. A change supported by 84% of the British public. 2 independent doctors and a High Court judge would have to assess each request, which, if granted, would enable a terminally ill person to die in a manner, time and place of their choosing. The legislation is based on a bill tabled by Lord Falconer in 2014, which was supported by peers at second reading. 2 opposition amendments were defeated by large margins at committee stage. However, the parliamentary session ended before it could progress further. The bill is modeled on legislation that has been in place in Oregon, USA for over 23 years, since adopted by 10 other American states, 3 Australian states, and New Zealand. So what's important in this first chapter, in this first paragraph, is first, the terminally ill person has to be mentally competent. So we can't. It's not for people who are suffering from mental illnesses, etc. And it's also assessed by a court judge and also by 2 doctors. So Baroness Meacher, the chair of Dignity in Dying, said, "My private member's bill on assisted dying is modest in its scope, and yet its potential to transform all our lives and death for the better is colossal. This option would enable terminally ill, mentally competent people whose suffering is beyond the reach of palliative care to die well and on their own terms, should they choose it. And it will also provide invaluable comfort and control to countless more who may never avail themselves of his option, but would be comforted by the simple fact of its existence. It is an insurance policy against intolerable suffering, and that benefits us all. Meanwhile, the current law thwarts open discussion between dying people, the doctors, friends, and family, forcing people to suffer unbearably against their wishes, or contemplate sedation, starvation, or suicide, or going to Switzerland. It is time for Parliament to act and thus improve the ability of all of us to lead happier lives in the knowledge that we will have some control over how we die, as is already available to an increasing number of citizens the world over. So that's the end of what she said. So as you heard, 84% of the British public is in favor of this new legislation. And in the Jewish community, across the board, 71% of Jews support it. So I looked into what the Reform rabbis wrote in America. You know, in America, they have a very strong rabbinic body with over 1,000 rabbis, and they have a committee which issue what's called a responsa. So you send a letter to this committee of rabbis, and they come back with a response, a responsa, which is based on Jewish tradition and on Jewish text. So in 1994, they issued a responsa on the question of assisted dying. So they started by stating the traditional halachic stance of this matter. This is what they say. Jewish tradition, as it's well known, prohibits suicide. If by suicide we mean a rational, premeditated act of self-killing. The prohibition flows from the tradition's affirmation of the sanctity, the inviolability of human life. This affirmation, in turn, assumes the doctrine that life belongs to God, who has the final say in its disposal. Similarly, Jewish law prohibits euthanasia or mercy killing. The dying person is like a living person in all respects, as it's stated in the Mishnah. So in 1994, they said, you can't do that. They said, you have to find other ways. You have to find other ways to ease the suffering, but you can't actively help someone to die. So in 2008, so not 13 years ago, they issued another responsa where they stated to hasten the death of a person, even of a dying person, and even out of compassionate motivations, is tantamount to bloodshed. Again, they rejected euthanasia and assisted dying on Jewish as well as on moral grounds. This is what they said. While Jewish tradition permits us, indeed requires us, to administer palliative care and pain control therapy to manage and to relieve the discomfort the patient suffers, it does not regard euthanasia or suicide as legitimate functions of medical practice. On the other hand, Jewish tradition has long distinguished between hastening death, which is forbidden, and removing any impediment to death, which is permitted. And already in medieval halachic sources, the removal of any factor that is deemed to cause an unnecessary delay in the death of the one who is in his final hours is permitted. But in any case, it is not permitted to participate actively in the death process. In other words, it is possible to stop a treatment that prolongs life for no reason, but not to administer a drug that will hasten death. So this is the position of the the Central Conference of American Rabbis, which is based in North America, but a lot of Israeli and European rabbis belong to that association as well. So when we saw that, and there was really an important discussion among progressive liberal rabbis in the UK. So Rebecca Burke and myself, were both co-chairing the Conference of Liberal Rabbis and Cantors. We asked Rabbi Daniel Rich to explain to us why liberal Judaism should join the religious alliance on the basis that Rabbi Daniel Rich has long been an advocate for assisted dying, so we wanted to see what he said. So I'm gonna read what Rabbi Daniel Rich said. First, liberal Judaism affirms the autonomy of competent individuals to believe, think, articulate, and act, particularly if no other relevant individual is harmed. The Alliance merely wishes to give legal force to the right of a terminally ill, mentally competent adult to choose assisted death in the face of unbearable suffering. For clarity, it is important to state that assisted dying is not appropriate for or relevant to disabled people who are not terminally ill or for those who are suffering from dementia who cannot consent of their own free will. Second, religious ways of life, including liberal Judaism, should not demand of adherents that they suffer unbearable pain that has no meaning or purpose. Yes, our tradition has always honored martyrs, but martyrdom for a cause or principle. Third, although Judaism is a life-affirming faith which rejects suicide and condemns murder, neither of those terms apply in relation to assisted dying. Only those whose lives are highly likely to end within 6 months would be covered by this legislation. Although there is less discussion in the traditional literature that advocates of assisted dying, I missed my line. Although there is less discussion in the traditional literature than advocates of assisted dying might lack of quality of life issues, such values are not irrelevant to a modern Jewish understanding. Fourth, possibly the greatest strength of liberal Judaism is its ability to face the challenges of modernity. It does so regardless of popularity and unfazed by accusations that what is being supported is not Jewish. Hence, liberal Jews advocated the equality of men and women, and more recently led the religious campaign for equal marriage in the United Kingdom. It would, in my view, in Rabbi Daniel Rich's view, be a failure for a mission if liberal Judaism did not take the lead in a modest change in the law, which will alleviate unnecessary direct suffering and may, if the state of Oregon evidence is persuasive, allow those with terminal illness to live longer, secure in the knowledge that if the pain becomes overwhelming, they can find release. The percentage of those who are thus unable to die without assistance is much higher than anyone predicted. So as a rabbinic body, we decided to follow his conclusions and to advocate for the proposed legislation. We are aware that our position goes further than our American colleagues, but we felt by a large majority that it was the right move and in complete coherence with values we stand for. If you have any question, Liberal Judaism has produced a document that answers most of the questions you may have. And you have rabbis around you. I know that Rabbi Charlie Baginski is happy to answer any question as well, and also Rabbi Daniel Rich. I believe personally that there is enough safeguarding guideline around this legislation to prevent this law to be used in an unethical matter. This is why I was personally in favor. And knowing the fact that if one day, within 6 months, no solution and too much suffering, I can actually find a way out in a way that was a good move. So of course, that we support that, but this will go to Parliament, and we don't know exactly what's going to happen. But there's an overwhelming support among the British people. So those who are on the call, do you have anything you wanted to say? So Sybil said that she supported the proposed legislation and she appreciates that the law needs to be tightly drawn and the risk of abuse must be prevented. Of course, but I think this proposal is aimed at the alleviation of suffering and does offer sufficient protection, yes. Oh gosh, I'm really sorry to hear that. Her mother died horribly and slowly, and I would not wish that on anyone. Absolutely, yeah. So it's a very serious topic, and I wanted to talk to you about this tonight because this information came out at the end of this week to our communities. Yeah, Philip?
If one does a medical lasting power of attorney, you do have the option in the lasting power of attorney to signify if you wanted to, quote unquote, my quote, be turned off in the event of different degrees of disability and illness. It's not an instruction, but it's an indication of your wishes. And that would make life a lot easier, of course, for people. So literally do a medical lasting power of attorney and register that, and leave that registered with your GP, because they're the first person who's going to know about your state, and then they can notify everybody in the authorities. So it would make the transition, God forbid, so much easier, because you have indicated through your power of attorney, which has to be registered with the courts. That's what you want. That's what I've done. That's what Sandra's done.
It's not exactly the same, because what you've signed is.
So it makes it easier.
It makes it easier, absolutely. So your children won't have to really think about it because it's what you want. Yes, absolutely. Because these questions are very hard.
And it's in writing when you're compos mentis, which I did a few years ago before I went potty.
Okay, Norman, surely it's 84% of people ask not. Okay, Norman, you're right. The problem with survey is that they're using a pool of people. They're asking. It's I understand what you mean. They didn't ask the 66 million people living in the UK what they think. They did a survey and they realized that 84% of the people were asked were in favor of that. And it's a representative of a larger population, but there's always a margin for error, of course, always. But 84% is quite a large support. Even if it's only 70 at the end, it's a large support, yes. So, yeah, I mean, okay. Any other question? Yeah, please go on.
Did you say that it's got to be approved by a High Court judge?
Yes.
Because I'm just wondering how many cases there might be and whether there's enough, given that there's not enough capacity in the court service anyway for the amount of legal cases, because unfortunately there's an awful lot of people who become terminally ill every year. I don't know how much it's been used in the state of Oregon. But unfortunately, I would think it could be quite popular.
Yeah, I think you're right. Does the legal system have the capacity to address all the queries? And if you have to wait 2 or 3 months to have an answer, then it defeats the purpose. Yes, absolutely. Yeah. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know if they thought about that, but that's the process proposed by the law. 1 High Court judge and 2 doctors. But maybe it will change, because that's just the proposal.
When I've heard this discussed in the past, one of the things that people have thrown up about it is where certain doctors aren't happy about participating in it. So the suggestion now is presumably, is it some sort of approved doctor, like you have for mental health sectioning and things like that?
I mean, you're right. I mean, it raises so many questions. Can you give permission to someone who wants to end their life? Can you say, okay, I sign a paper that says you can do it? It's a big responsibility, huh? I'm sure not all GPs will, or not all doctors will participate in this scheme. I'm pretty sure, yes.
I'm thinking that some of them would be doing it because of their particular belief or whatever.
Yeah. Absolutely. Yes. Yeah. We'll see how it goes. I guess it will be in the press in the coming weeks, because the next reading, I don't know when it's supposed to go to the Commons, but the next reading at the House of Lords is, when is it scheduled? I don't remember now, but yeah. Okay, so it's a very serious topic for Erev Shabbat. Sorry, but I wanted to talk to you about that because this came out literally yesterday or today, and I thought I would explain you a bit how it's done. And of course, you know, what you have to understand, the way liberal Judaism operates. Of course, you know, there's a rabbinic association. There are about, I would say, about 40, 45 rabbis belonging to this rabbinic association, and there's also the board of national officers. There's also the LG council. So all the matters, you know, it's all the decisions are always taken in discussion, in collaboration with all these different bodies. But of course, we were asked, you know, as rabbis, what are the religious implications of that? And I can tell you, some colleagues are not comfortable with that, and understand that. It's one of these topics where at some point you have to say, okay, this is what I personally believe, and go for it, because there are good arguments on both sides of a debate. Right. Okay. So before we finish our service, let me retrieve my email. So tomorrow morning, we will have a service on Zoom. The link is in the newsletter, and Rebecca Weddell will do the music. We will co-lead the service together tomorrow at 11:15. And we will also have the admission ceremony for Meira Laila, who is now in Sydney, I think. She's in Sydney, in Australia. So when we start our service at 11:15, it will be what? 10 o'clock in the evening, 10 p.m. You know, she will have to stay awake late at night. So please come along and greet Meira for admission ceremony. Next week, we have another series of Bnei Mitzvah. Next week, we have Azize Oizurek Ber, and the following week, it will be Firuze Oizurek Ber. So the two twins sisters. So it starts with A, so next week's Azize, and the following week is Firuze. And what else? What else? So we have our regular Hebrew classes, beginners Hebrew, biblical Hebrew. So next Friday there won't be a Torah lunch, and all the rest you can find. So Craig has put in the newsletter an article about the Religious Alliance for Dignity in Dying. So if you want to have a look, and especially there are all the questions, you know, the Q&A that Liberal Judaism has produced. So you can also have a look at that. And if you have any questions, please come back to me and we can discuss about it. Okay, I'm going to show it to you because I'm very, very happy. Thursday, Father Christmas. Father Christmas came on Thursday to KLS and delivered our new lectern. So let me show it to you for those who haven't seen it. It's just a wonderful piece, and it's really, really, really lovely. So I'm just going to show it to you. So this is our new lectern at KLS. A very nice piece of woodwork. Where's the next one? So let me show you the side as well. So from the side here, so it's very, I mean, the lines are really nice. So this is our new lectern that we will inaugurate next Shabbat with Azize. So I told her that she will be the first one to use our new lectern. Is there anything I have forgotten? No?
Book crushes next week.
Oh, it's Book Crushers next week. Okay. Book Crushers next week. What are you reading then?
We're reading Judith by Lawrence Durrell. So it takes place just after the war, going up to the creation of the state of Israel. So
Okay,
very it's very well written. So yeah.
good. Oh, I also forgot to tell you that in the newsletter there's an interview that Rebecca did with Diane. And it's a very nice interview, so you will be able to see everything that Diane does for KLS. So it's in the newsletter. The link is in the newsletter. Okay, let's finish our service now. Page 519. 519. Baruch Adonai Leolam, Amen ve'Amen. Baruch Adonai Elohim Elohei Yisrael Oseh Niflaot Levado. Uvaruch Shem Kvodo Leolam. Ve'yimalech Kvodo et kol haaretz. Amen ve'Amen. The eternal God shall rule over all the earth. On that day the eternal God shall be one, and known to be one. May you love, O God, rest upon us, as you rest our hope in you. All the nations that you have made shall come and bow down before you and honor your name. Let God be praised by day, let God be praised by night, let God be praised when we lie down, let God be praised when we rise up. Avinu shebashamayim, yachet shimcha, v'kayem malchutcha tamid, umloch aleinu leolam va'ed. Adonai melech, Adonai malach, Adonai yimloch, leolam va'ed. Life is finite. Like a candle, it burns, it glows, it is radiant with warmth and beauty, then it fades. Its substance is consumed, and it is no more. Yet we do not despair, for we know that we are more than a flickering flame. With our lives, we give life. Something of us can never die. We move in the eternal cycle of darkness and light, of death and life. As our hearts we name our loved one, we pray that the divine presence will comfort us and all who mourn. And on this Shabbat, we remember Eileen Ingram, remembered by her daughters and friends, Margaret Browse, her grandmother Louisa Mickelson. Is there any other name you'd like to remember on this Shabbat? Yes, please, Sandra.
Yeah, my mother, Gertrude Wagman, who died June 1990.
Zichronam livracha, may their memory be a blessing for all of us who remember our loved ones. And we said together the Kaddish on page 524. Yitgadal v'yitkadash shemei Rabba, be'alma divarach chiruteh v'yamlich malchuteh, b'chayechon v'yomechon, ובחיי דכל בית ישראל, בעגלה בזמן קריב, ואמרו אמן. יהא שמך רבה מבורך לעלם נעלמי עלמיה, יתברך וישתבח ויתפאר ויתחומם ויתנשא, ויתהדר ויתהלל ויתהלל שמי דקודשה בריחו. לעילה מן כל ברכתה ושירתה, תוש בחתה ונחמתה, דאמירן בעלמה ואמרו אמן. יהא שלמה רבה מן שמיה, וחיים עלינו ועל כל ישראל, ואמרו אמן. עושה שלום במרומיו, הוא יעשה שלום. עלינו ועל כל ישראל, ועל כל בני אדם, ואמרו אמן. Okay, let's do Yom Zeh LeIsrael. It's been a while that we haven't done it. And I want you to unmute yourself and to shout Yom Zeh, okay? Page 644. 644. Pam 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 pam. Do you remember that? Yom Zeh Israel ora v'simcha, ora v'simcha, Shabbat menucha. Yom Zeh Israel ora v'simcha, Shabbat Shabbat menucha, Shabbat menucha. Tzivita pikudim be'ama Sinai. Shabbat ומועדים לשמור בכל שנה, לאכול לפני מעשה דברך, שבת שבת מנוחה, שבת שבת מנוחה. יום זה לישראל אורה ושמחה, אורה ושמחה, שבת מנוחה. יום זה לישראל אורה ושמחה, שבת שבת מנוחה, שבת שבת מנוחה. עמדת הלבבות לאומה שבוכה, בנפשות מכבות נשמה יתך, מנפת מצלך יסיר הנחה, שבת שבת מנוחה, שבת שבת מנוחה. יום זה לישראל אורה ושמחה, אורה ושמחה, שבת מנוחה. יום זה לישראל אורה ושמחה, שבת שבת מנוחה, שבת שבת מנוחה. קידשת בחרת אותו מכל ימים, בששת כילית מלאכת עולמים. בו מצאו הגונים השקט ובטחה, שבת שבת מנוחה, שבת שבת מנוחה. יום זה לישראל אורה ושמחה, אורה ושמחה, שבת מנוחה. יום זה לישראל אורה ושמחה, שבת שבת מנוחה, שבת שבת מנוחה. Shabbat shalom.
Cats.
Hello, cats. Shabbat shalom, cats.
They're both here. They're not looking the best.
Wow.
Oh, booze off.
Yeah, gosh. Okay, so let's do the kiddush together on page 571. 571. May God bless us and guide us. Let us seek truth, make peace, be kind and courteous in our words, just and loving in our deeds. A noble heritage has been entrusted to us. Let us guard it well. Yevarech Adonai ve'yishmerecha. May God bless us and keep us. Yaher Adonai panav elecha v'chuneka. May God look kindly upon us and be gracious to us. Yisa Adonai panav elecha v'yasem lecha shalom. May God reach out to us in tenderness and give us peace. Page 573. No, gosh, it's the wrong place. The blessing is correct, but it's 564. Sorry, 564. ויחולו השמיים וארץ וכל צבאם, ויחל אלוהים ביום השביעי מלאכתו אשר עשה, וישבות ביום השביעי מכל מלאכתו אשר עשה, ויברך אלוהים את יום השביעי, ויקדש אותו, כי בו שבת מכל מלאכתו אשר ברא אלוהים לעשות. ברוך אתה אדוני, אלוהינו מלך העולם, בורא פרי הגפן, אמן. ברוך אתה אדוני, אלוהינו מלך העולם, אשר קידשנו במצוותיו ורצה בנו, ושבת קודשו באהבה וברצון הנחילנו, זיכרון למעשה וראשית, כי הוא ים תחילה למקראי קודש, זכר ליציאת מצרים, כי בנו בחרת, ואותנו קידשת מכל העמים, ושבת קודשך באהבה וברצון הנחלתנו. ברוך אתה אדוני מקדש השבת, אמן. לחיים.
Chaim.
Can I see you chalot? Who is back to challah tonight?
Craig's gone to get his.
Natalia,
Usually,
No,
yeah,
I have to
Natalia-
make a confession. This is leftovers from last week. Sorry.
Nobody can, no
gonna
confession.
toast in a minute.
It's only on Yom Kippur that we do confession. Wow, nice challah, Craig.
Very good,
Yeah.
very good.
Okay, let's say together the
Well
Hamotzi.
done for making it, Craig.
ברוך אתה אדוני אלוהינו מלך העולם, המוציא לחם מן הארץ, אמן. Shabbat shalom.
Shabbat shalom.
I'm going to end now the streaming.